I really see painting as this form of meditation and this form of almost like spiritual devotion. You really have to ask for what you want. People generally want to help, and people generally want to help you achieve your goals and get you to where you want to be, but you just have to ask. And you'd be surprised by what happens.
The art world is always changing. It's a dynamic space where creativity and commerce collide. Finding your path and staying true to your craft isn't easy. Welcome to the Professional Artist Podcast. This show explores what it truly takes to build a meaningful and sustainable art career. Each week, we offer intimate, in-depth conversations that reveal which business strategies actually work, giving you the inspiration and insight to fuel your artistic journey. I'm your host today, Christina Demiani, and in this episode, we're diving into the world of Gwen Hollingsworth, an abstract painter known for her mystical, atmospheric works. Her practice explores spirituality, nature, and psychological dimensions, weaving together influences such as Buddhism, Taoism, and Jungian thought. In this conversation, we're taking business world strategies and bringing them into the art world. Here's what you'll gain from our discussion. Your creative sanctuary. Understand why establishing a dedicated studio space, separate from your living environment, is so important and can dramatically enhance both your creative output and professional mindset. The elevator pitch. Discover how to master your who, why, and what to instantly captivate collectors, curators, and collaborators. The power of follow-through. Learn why Gwen never hesitates to reach out when someone shares their contact information and how this simple practice has created opportunities in her business. All right, let's explore the world of Gwen Hollingsworth. We're standing in front of your first piece that represents your practice and medium. It's called Incantation, and I wonder if you could please describe this piece to our audience.
Incantation is 4x5 foot dark purple landscape. And when I was making it, I was thinking about making this field of flowers and portal into like in between shadow realm. Incantation means a lot to me because it was one of the first paintings that I made in this newer style, painting very thinly, having really thin washes of paint, and creating this almost hazy, smoky atmosphere that creates an otherworldly effect. Incantation was also one of the first pieces that I made where I started thinking about painting as a sort of ritualized or magical process. It was the first piece that got me thinking about ideas that are now very prevalent in my practice with Buddhism and Taoism, spirituality, and integrating that into the landscape as a sacred space.
This idea of painting as a ritual, a sacred process, led to deeper reflections on spirituality. For Gwen, the connection between creative practice and inner exploration became a powerful way to reconnect with her roots and beliefs.
I was raised Buddhist very casually, but it was a very integral part of my upbringing. And around 2020, I started diving into my spirituality again and just trying to make sense of what was happening and me changing and growing as a person. And then also trying to figure out how to express that in my work. I've always had a very deep reverence and love and care for nature and trying to depict that and also figure out our connections to our environment and how it impacts our behaviors and our understandings of our relationships to each other and ourselves. And Buddhism is all about releasing your sense of ego and your sense of self-identity and realizing we are all connected. And when I'm painting, it's such like a meditative process for me. And I really see painting as this form of meditation and this form of almost spiritual devotion. I am trying to be better about sketching out ideas and making small paintings beforehand. I feel I can be a very impulsive person and will just have an idea in my head and just kind of jump into it and not do a lot of prior planning, which sometimes it works out great, but a lot of times I just get frustrated in the process. So now I'm getting better about like having colored pencils and my sketchbook next to me and drawing out the ideas just so I have a blueprint. And I don't always do that, but I just ended my studio residency at Silver Art Projects in New York, and I'm about to head to a residency called the Potato Farm Project in Long Island starting in April. So I'm just planning on making a bunch of small plein air landscape paintings and experimenting with new materials. I'm going to try gouache and acrylic and watercolor, which I'm an oil painter historically. So I'm excited to experiment and have no expectations. But I think this would be really good for me to actually have sketches and plans and like studies for larger paintings. So, for the past year, I had a studio space in Four World Trade Center as a part of this residency, Silver Art Projects. And before then, I was in California, in LA, and I was using my parents' garage as my studio. And then currently, I'm in a bit of an in between. I don't really have a studio space, but then I'll have a studio space for a month. And then I'll probably go back to LA for a while, work in my parents' garage again. It's always been very important for me to have a space set aside solely for my work and my art practice. I think it's always good just to have a space dedicated solely for your work. And it's nice in LA because most people have garages you have to drive, and not just like a built in studio, pretty much. I was embarrassed or ashamed for a long time, being like, I don't have a studio of my own. I don't earn enough income to be able to rent a studio. I'm also someone who, if I'm pressured to do something, because if I was paying rent for a studio, I would feel pressured to go and work. And then that would just mess with my flow. And I need to step out every couple of hours, take a walk, make myself lunch, go take a nap. So a home studio is my ideal situation. So fortunate and lucky, like I have lovely parents who let me commandeer their garage as my space.
After graduating from UCLA, Gwen makes her first gallery connection in Los Angeles and starts building her art business network. She makes a bold decision to move across the country and attend a major residency in New York, Silver Art Projects.
I first started showing in galleries in 2021. The first group show I was in was at Sew and Taylor in Los Angeles. And Greg Ito, who co-owns a space with his wife, Karen Galloway, he reached out to me over Instagram, actually. He messaged me and we had a great studio visit and they included me in this group show. And then from there, other galleries started reaching out. I really think that one thing just leads to another. I think having open energy, being nice to everyone, going to openings, showing face, and I think just making work that's very honest to you. I was just showing work in LA, and then I was feeling a bit stagnant around like 2022, 2023. And I had never lived outside of LA before. And so I was really wanting to move and challenge myself and introduce myself to the wider world. So I started applying to programs in New York and looking at opportunities. And then I miraculously got into Silver Art Projects, and it was an amazing opportunity. So I moved to New York in February 2024 and then started this residency. Silver Art Projects was such a great opportunity because they are so good about bringing around gallerists, curators, and collectors. And so I got my elevator pitch almost perfect, and it was a lot of practice, but I was meeting a lot of people. Silver Art Projects is amazing also because it's a cohort of 28 artists. So I was able to make friends, and all of the artists in the program are in such different places in their careers. There are some artists who are more emerging like me and other artists who are very established. And so there was always someone who could answer a question that I have or help me craft an email.
An elevator pitch is a business term that refers to an efficient, confident way of describing who you are, what you do, and what you're looking for. It's a way to communicate clearly to potential network contacts, and it's a way to name your intentions out loud. Listen as Gwen describes how intentionally she thought about her first solo show, and how she thinks about the nature of opportunity.
It's 30-second, a minute overall explanation of your work. And that's open enough to lead into other questions or create a conversation for people who are interested. And I was manifesting having my first solo show all year because I came to New York, had a group show or two planned, but then nothing major. And so all year I was, oh, I'm just making this body of work and hopefully there's a space that would want to show it. And it ended up happening. So I really do think you have to ask for what you want. And also, just I didn't have anything coming up, but I was making this work, preparing for an opportunity because inevitably those opportunities will come. So I think just being ready for it was really helpful. It also tells the universe you're ready for something and then it'll come back to you.
I love what you just said. The opportunity is inevitable. That is such a beautiful mindset of abundance, right? Like you're not assuming that there won't be opportunities. You're saying, for sure, there will be opportunities. So I better be ready for them.
Yeah, I remember I had coffee with a gallery director once, and he was like, guarantee that every single artist that continues to make work will one day get representation. It's just a matter of when. And just being dedicated to the practice.
That brings us over to the next piece, which represents a pivotal career moment for you. And it's called Heartlines. Could you describe this piece for our audience?
I made this piece, I believe, in 2022, and it was the first painting that ever sold. So that's why it was a pivotal point for me. But it's a dark landscape painting, and it's bug's eye view, very close to the ground, but you can see these grasses making a heart shape. And this time I was really thinking about how plants and nature exist on their own time outside of human time and exist just for themselves and would even prosper without our interference. What that means, the sacredness of that type of space. This was shown at So and Taylor, and it was the first painting that was sold. So I was like, okay, I'm on the right path. I'm doing something right. Someone's responding well to this. And yeah, that was very special to me.
Many artists struggle with social media. Instagram can feel like a distraction, a burden, or a lifeline, depending on the day. But for Gwen, it's a useful tool for connection, especially with galleries. Listen to how she's learned to draw boundaries with the app and how to navigate it on her own terms.
It is necessary evil is a great way of putting it. I'm trying to have a more positive mindset about everything in general. I purely try to view it as a tool. And once it starts feeling like it's not that, I immediately delete it off my phone. I think Instagram has genuinely helped me in my career because that is how I think a good amount of galleries have found out about my work. I use it purely to post pictures of my paintings and post pictures of me. I don't need anyone else seeing what I'm up to. I don't really post stories of what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. I'm going to this residency in Long Island and it's a bit more rural and I want to deactivate my account for a month and just disconnect. And I think it's healthy to do that every now and then. But Instagram has helped me a lot. So I can't ignore that also. And I view it as checking my email in the morning almost. I think it's also really great to support your friends and support your community, posting about like your friends' work, posting about shows that you've seen and shows that you've liked. What you put out, you get back. Nowadays, I feel like if I don't have very many mutual followers with someone or with a gallery, I'll just stay away. But I feel like the art world itself is not that big. Everyone, to a certain degree, knows someone who knows someone. So yeah, just ask around, ask your friends, ask people that you trust. Also, when working with galleries, asking friends if they've worked with them or people that you know what their experience was like.
At Silver Art Projects, Gwen crossed paths with people who could truly make a difference in her career, including editors from Artsy. She shows us that it's not just about who you meet, but the actions you take and how you follow up that make all the difference.
During one of the events at Silver Art Projects, there was an event where journalists and arts writers came, and Artsy was one of the publications that came and did studio visits. So it was through that initial connection that I met with a couple of editors from Artsy, and then when I had my solo show at Island Gallery in New York in January, I invited Casey Lesser, who's the editor at Artsy, to come. And she's lovely and is very supportive of my work. And so she put me in that newsletter. I think it was one of those organic connections. And through this year, being in New York, especially, just not being afraid of reaching out to people and being like, come to my show. I was always so worried about being annoying or being rejected. But a lot of my friends in the cohort who are more established than me were like, if someone gives you their email, you have permission to email them until they tell you to stop. I was reaching out to people that I had met once and was like, oh, hey, if you're free, would love to see you here. No pressure. But that was a result of me reaching out. And so it's always good to do that because the worst thing that can happen is they don't respond or they say no, and that's fine. A little bit of a tangent. But like one thing that's really helped me is saying rejection is protection because it's so true. One of my friends told me that a few years ago, and it's always top of mind. If something doesn't work out, it's protection. Reaching out, that kind of happened very organically. You really have to ask for what you want. And that's something that has taken me a long time to learn, but it's so necessary. People generally want to help, and people generally want to help you achieve your goals and get you to where you want to be, but you just have to ask. And you'd be surprised by what happens genuinely.
I want to talk more about the moment when Artsy visited your studio. So you're doing the residency and you have an open studio event. Now, did you know that this was who was coming or was it a surprise?
They gave us a general idea. A couple of people from Hyperallergic, Brooklyn Rail, other independent arts publications were there. Artsy was one of them. I tend to not do research just because if I know that someone is coming and they're a big deal, then I'll get nervous and start acting weird. So I try to not know who people are as much as possible. I didn't know how many editors from Artsy there were. And it was one of those things where people were just milling around, walking around the studios. A couple people stopped in mine, were like, oh, tell me about your work. I gave them the elevator pitch. This is my work. This is what I'm working on. This is what I'm hoping to do while I'm in New York. Like, I'm new here. And had a conversation for a couple minutes and then they left and I didn't think much of it. After I had my opening at Island, the gallery director, Mike, texted me and was like, oh, like Artsy wants to do a piece about your show. Would you be interested? I was like, of course. I was not expecting it at all. I was just making work that was genuine and authentic to me. And that was received well. So yeah, it was very organic. I was just making work that was honest to me, reaching out to people saying, hey, come to my show. And it just worked out the best possible way.
Let's take a look at the third piece in your exhibition today. And this one represents the idea of peer support. And it is called Siren. So, can you describe this piece for our audience and tell us about it?
Over the summer, I was having a bit of painter's block and like creative block. And I was in the studio every day, but I was just not being productive. I wasn't really sure what to do, but I just kept working on this painting in particular. And I was feeling a lot of self imposed pressure of, okay, I don't have any shows coming up. I don't know what is next. And I had a really great studio visit with one of my friends in the program. She was like, listen, your only concern should be about making good paintings. You're worried about these opportunities and stuff. Those will come inevitably. And that should not be your concern. Like your only concern should be making good work. And so I think once I got out of that headspace of, oh, like I have nothing to be making work for, and I don't know when my next show will be. I think that when you let go of that expectation of, I'm making this for a show, will a gallery like it, that you're able to make work more freely. And that's what I want as an artist. And so in this painting, I was thinking about sirens, the mythological creature that led sailors to their deaths with their siren song and with their beauty. I was thinking about beauty as a way of disguising terror or disguising horror, but then also thinking about what comes after that. And also thinking about water and landscape as this vessel for containing all of these emotions. And It took me a long time to make this painting, longer than I normally take, maybe like almost 1 to 2 months, maybe 3 months. But yeah, and I had a lot of friends just come in and offering that emotional, generous support of, oh no, like you have to trust your instincts. And this is one of my favorite paintings that I made this year. And I'm really happy how it turned out. And this painting, it just reminds me of that conversation I had with my friend when she was like, your only focus should be on making good paintings and not about what comes next.
Working in isolation can be powerful, but being part of a community shifts the experience in unexpected ways. For Gwen, artist community is something important to invest in and something that can help you move through creative blocks and encounter more opportunities.
The studios were all communal, but I had gotten used to making work completely isolated and alone in my garage. I love just being alone in my studio, but it was so amazing being around other people, getting to have conversations every day, hang out with friends every day. It really felt like I was back in school or something. And I loved it. And it was really nice also because when I would have those moments when I would get in my head, instead of dealing with it myself, I would be able to talk it out with a friend or with another artist that I really respect. And I think it's important to be able to do that for yourself, but I think also art exists in community. And so it is important to hear how other people are interpreting it as well. I think the artist community is one of the most important facets of an art career, and also one of the most important facets of my life is being around creative people and being around such inspiring and generous people and artists. And I feel I've gotten so many opportunities from my friends and people that I've worked with, artists that I've shown with. I think it's so important. And I think it's really important to have people around you who understand the same struggles that you're going through or who have similar experiences.
If there's an artist listening who is resonating with what you're saying and they really want to build their artist network and make this area stronger, what do you think are some good first steps that they could take to do this?
I would say going to shows, showing up for your community. I was very fortunate. I made a lot of my friends through school and through the art program in undergrad. And a lot of those artists are still practicing. I think also just I have made friends on Instagram. It always goes back to Instagram, but reaching out to artists I have a couple mutuals with who I like their work and asking for a studio visit and vice versa. That's how I met a few friends this year was people messaged me and were like, oh, I would love to come see your studio and having mutual studio visits. And it just turns into hanging out, getting to know someone, hearing their life story.
Getting into an artist residency takes research, intention, and persistence. Gwen approaches it deliberately, searching through many resources until she finds the right fit for what she hopes to create. She also understands that rejection is part of the process.
I'm a big lurker and always seeing what artists are up to. I follow a lot of Instagram pages that post residencies and also subscribe to a lot of email lists. Hyperallergic has a really great residency and art opportunity page, New York Foundation of the Arts. And then once I'm looking at a residency page, I will see artists who have done that program. And then I'll go to that artist and see residencies that they have done. So it's just a big rabbit hole that I can find myself going down for hours. And then my approach to applying is since 2019, I've always tried to biannually write a new artist statement or tweak the artist statement that I have. Because I just think it's a really good practice to be constantly thinking about my work and thinking about what I'm doing in this present moment. And then thinking about what I want from this residency and what I want from this opportunity. And then another question is, what are you hoping to do during this time? And this residency I'm about to do for 1 month, I really wanted to make small work, be less precious. I get rejected from things at least once a week. it doesn't faze me anymore getting rejected from things. I get rejected from things all the time, but I've always tried to make it a habit to just apply for as many things as possible because you never know what will happen. And that's what happened with Silver Art Projects. I sent in an application the minute before the portal was going to close. And I was like, oh, well, that's $20 in my life, whatever. But then it turned out that I got this opportunity and it was really fruitful and amazing. I just think that it's really helpful to apply for as many things as possible.
So how does Gwen support herself while building this growing art career? With multiple galleries involved and some sales under her belt, she opens up about the financial side of being a working artist and how she's navigating the ups and downs of the contemporary art market.
I just had my first solo show in January with Island Gallery, and they were able to, so far, sell about half the show. So in terms of selling artwork, it is like fairly intermittent just because I am newer. The art market's quite unstable, but I have a little bit of savings from that show. It is fairly intermittent. So when I was in LA, I was teaching, I was working at elementary school as well, just for stable income. It was more part-time work so that I could work on my practice. And eventually the goal is to make my art full-time. I want to get my MFA so I can teach at the college level as well. So my income from painting is like fairly intermittent, but it does happen. And every time it does happen, it's the most amazing feeling in the world. I think it is a good idea to have somewhat stable income so you can pay for your studio, pay your rent, and also maintain your art practice.
So as a young artist who is on the rise in the contemporary art market, is there one piece of advice that you would give emerging artists based on your experience so far?
I would say a couple of things. Always try and have a space dedicated solely to your craft, whether it's a wall in your bedroom or a desk, just a place that's solely for art making and for your practice. I think even just mentally having a space that's just for that will force you to make work. Because I think the struggle that happens when a lot of artists leave school, they don't have that structure for themselves. But I really believe that if you're meant to make work or meant to be an artist, then it will almost call you back. Having a space solely for that is very helpful. Don't compare yourself to others. Comparison really is a thief of joy. Finding what really works for you, and especially in your studio schedule or things like that. I found out that I'm a day worker. I'm very much an 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. studio artist. And being in the studio, even though I make work about night and nocturnes, when I'm in the studio at night, I'm just not productive. I would say just being nice to people and pleasant to work with, and also just being nice and respectful to others. You never know what another person can get for you. I think you should just be nice and kind because that's the right thing to do. But it's true. You never know who you're talking to. And you also never know who's going to remember you and if you were rude or something. I've gotten a lot of opportunities just from friends or people I knew casually. Just being nice, kind, showing up for your community. You never know where that will get you.
Gwen Hollingsworth's story shows us how opportunities can be inevitable in the art world. Her journey from emerging artist to her first solo show is a testament to what's possible with intention, resourcefulness, and taking action. Gwen's story embodies our core message at the Professional Artists Association that with the right mindset, strategies, and community support, artists can build meaningful, sustainable careers doing what they love. Her path reminds us that success comes through consistency, authentic connection, and unwavering dedication to your craft. This podcast grows because people like you share it. So if you got value today, if it inspired you to think differently or take action, hit follow or subscribe and send it to one person who needs to hear it. That's how we keep making more episodes. Thank you for listening to the Professional Artist Podcast, and until next time.